Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Wednesday, November 28th, 2018. Glad that everybody could join us tonight. Let's take a look at solar wind speeds. We're sitting at 384 kilometers per second with a density of 4.5. Taking a look at our sun, it is once again blank. This will now make day 196 without a sunspot. That's 2 days in a row without a sunspot. Our TCI index has dropped just a little bit. We were 38 billion watts. Now we are down to 37 billion watts. So we continue to watch that temperature march downwards towards that minimum low of 2009. Taking a look at our KP indices, we're sitting at a 1 with a 24-hour max of a 1. And this is what our sun looks like right now. We have a Earth-facing coronal hole at this time. Now remember, it takes a few days for those solar winds to reach us from the sun, so we won't see the effects from this coronal hole, according to NOAA, sometime December 1st. So I'll go out on a limb and say it might be late November 30th. However the case may be, we will have geomagnetic storms, a G1 they're predicting, possibly by the 30th into early November 30th. This is the coronal hole we're talking about that should give us that G1 storm. And then right back here, I don't know if it's much to watch, but we do see some activity kind of just spur up at the last minute. But no indications that it's going to turn into a sunspot. Just a brief observation here of a weak active region on the sun. Looking pretty blank other than that. We'll take a look at the entire sun here and see what's to come, if anything at all. Right now it looks pretty blank. Let's take a look at it in motion. Here we go. And just like the days have passed, not very many sunspots to talk about. If there is any active regions, look, there's one right there, right below the 180. So that is in the southern region of the sun. Therefore, would have to be convinced that we are not yet in the beginning of cycle 25. Even though we've seen a couple of active regions that would represent cycle 25. Again, our solar cycles overlap each other to start, end to end. So the end of 24 and 25 will lap over each other as far as the ending and the beginning of these sunspots before solar cycle 25 actually takes off. I'm sure you all enjoyed my hand gestures to explain the overlapping of the sunspots. Take a look at our TSI, 1360.7071, slightly up from the past couple of days that we've had our TSI readings at. And let's get right to the headlines here. First, we'll go to Sydney, hit by worst November storm since 1984. More than a month's worth of rain in 90 minutes. 2 people were killed and several injured after a major storm hit Sydney, Australia on November 28, 2018. The storm dumped more rain in just several hours than the region records during the entire month of November. Observatory Hill recorded around 4.9 inches of rain, 1.6 inches more than the entire November average. BOM NSW manager Ann Farrell said that it was the wettest daily total the site has recorded since 1984. According to our estimates, for that intensity and that duration, that's the sort of rainfall you'd expect to occur about once every 100 years. There we go again, that famous once in every 100-year storm that we have been seeing all year long in the headlines. Every show that I've read has mentioned that. Just about every show I've done has got a story that's talking about a 100-year-old temperature record or a precipitation record that has not been fallen since 100 years. Here's some rain totals. Mossman recorded 5.3 inches. Macquarie Pass recorded 4.8. Sydney dropped around 4.72 inches of rain. Chatswood got about 4.17 inches of rain. Abbotsford in the inner west received 3.81 inches. On average, Sydney CBD records 2.63 of rain during the entire month of November. So quite an impressive total in just 90 minutes in Sydney. Winds were also an issue. 56 mile an hour winds downing trees and contributing to commuter chaos. Gusts have been recorded at Sydney Harbor and Wollongong Maitland registered gusts around 59 miles per hour. We'll leave the link in the description, but that is just headline number 1 for the day, part of our worldwide coverage of grand solar minimum news. And these storms are significant to what we talk about when it comes to grand solar minimum and the news that it carries. These are weather features that are related to these minimums as well. Extreme cosmic rays that we have experienced. Again, cosmic rays, a correction. I've always said that that makes the particles more sustainable to snowfall and raindrops. Well, it's not the highly charged particles themselves that cause the drops. They magnetize, basically. They energize particles in the atmosphere, making them more ready for formation of a particle of a raindrop or snowflake. So in other words, I always thought of it, now I look at it as cosmic rays basically gives a particle a magnet to basically absorb water vapor that turns it into a raindrop or snowflake. But we're seeing increased cosmic rays due to low solar wind and a weak magnetosphere, which is not protecting the Earth like it usually does during a solar max. So all this harmful radiation that's hitting our planet, our atmosphere, it's heating it up as far as electrically, and it is energizing these particles and creating these rain bomb storms. It used to be a rare thing we talked about, and now it almost seems like a daily thing where we're reporting about one area of the world that's receiving rain that's up to the car doors of your car. And some unfortunate news out of Ecuador. 9 dead after landslides in Morona, Santiago Province. Basically, heavy rain and landslides in Morona, Santiago Province, Ecuador, have left at least 9 people dead and 8 injured. Authorities say 6 homes were destroyed. And that's just the power of what a landslide can do. I mean, it looks like it ripped this house apart like a tornado. Landslide struck in Limon, Indianza, Canton on November 24th. Further heavy rain has fallen since. Around 150 people have been evacuated to temporary shelters by Ecuador's National Risk and Emergency Management System. Heavy rain has been reported elsewhere in the country. Ecuador's Institute Nacional de Meteorology said that Quito has recorded 238 millimeters of rain so far this month, making November 2018 one of the wettest in recent years. And here is a chart showing us the November precipitation. And take a look at this, 2010, 2018. We've only got 2 more days left to go. So it's possible that this could be the wettest November, but if you take a look at this stat here and look at this chart, back in 2010 was when they received large amounts of rain, and that was also during an 11-year solar cycle as well. Just interesting to point that out. More images on the website. We'll leave the link in the description of the destruction and the attempt at cleaning up and trying to get things back together, but just an absolute mess here, folks. And let's take a look here. One of our favorite volcanoes, Popocatépetl volcano, registers 68 exhalations in 24 hours. Now, this doesn't mean that we better get ready for a year without a summer. Just reporting on this eruption, as this is an active volcano in this region. The Grand Solar Minimum channel, we've made videos about the eruptions here. Sometimes they do get a little dicey, but right now this is just your typical activity that happens, especially during these minimums. But it says here that this volcano has registered 68 exhalations accompanied by water vapor, gas, and light amount of ash, as well as 4 volcano-tectonic earthquakes. It says here the traffic alert is now a yellow phase, which is why Popocatépetl could continue with explosive activity of low to intermediate scale. Mild to moderate ash rains in nearby populations are expected, as well as possible pyroclastic flows and short-range mud flows. The Center for Disaster Prevention asked the population not to approach the volcano and much less the crater due to the danger involved in the fall of ballistic fragments, and indicated that in case of heavy rain should move away from the bottoms of the ravines by danger of landslides and mud flows. And there's a little bit of history here about the Popocatépetl to read up on it. We'll leave the link in the description as well. But just getting a little volcano news in there. We haven't had a lot of volcano talk lately. It's been all snow and cold. And speaking of cold, a significant cold outbreak for Eastern Europe and the Balkan Peninsula through the last days of November. The last days of November will be significantly colder than average for Eastern Europe and the Balkan Peninsula, I should say. An upper low ejects from western Russia driven by a strong upper ridge across the northern Europe. Very cold air mass advection takes place across most of the Balkan Peninsula and also reaches parts of the central Mediterranean. Very cold mornings are expected with up to hurricane force Bora winds along the eastern Adriatic. The pattern this week indicates a deep trough over the North Atlantic and ridging across the north and northeast Europe. An upper low will be located over the Balkan Peninsula for a few days, favorable for a strong cold advection towards western Balkan countries in the Adriatic Sea. And we are showing you the temperature anomalies that are to come here in the next few days. The coldest air mass in the mid-levels will be over Romania on Thursday, more than 12 degrees Celsius below normal for the end of November. I have to mention this. For those of you who follow politics, I saw a funny meme of the congresswoman who was recently elected, and she's the one that can't move into an apartment in D.C. until she gets inaugurated on January 3rd. I don't even know her name, but anyway, she's all over the internet. And the latest meme that I found was very amusing. Was she was being portrayed as saying that Trump needs to shut down Romania until we figure out what's going on with its lettuce. Now, I don't know if that's something that she said,
no.
But I think a lot of folks...
People are just making up stuff that sounds like what this...
But
she says a lot of
it's
idiotic
believable.
Stuff.
It's believable. I could see her saying that, after seeing some of the things that she said the last few weeks. So, sorry, the Romania thing kind of brought that to mind, and we better make sure their lettuce is under wraps here, guys. Again, I'll leave the link in the description here at severeweather.eu for all the details coming up about this cold snap in Eastern Europe. It's a short show tonight, guys. It was a slow news night for sure, but you couldn't say that for folks who lived in central and western New York. We had some lake effect out here today, guys. We got some snow showers up here in upstate New York. Nothing major, nothing stuck. Temperature's been above freezing, so we haven't had favorable conditions for any kind of snowfall or accumulation. But these guys did, and I'll tell you, I didn't read or remember even reading about how much snow we were expected from the storm. Did you happen to hear anything about possible 2 feet happening in the central New York today?
I haven't been online, Jake. I'm guilty of real life crap. I haven't. I'm sorry. I feel like I've let you down, Jake.
Well, it says here that Syracuse, New York, with snow still falling, one upstate New York spot has already seen more than 2 feet from this winter storm. Perrysburg in the western New York county of Cattaraugus had 28.2 inches of snow as of 7:30 a.m. this morning. Forecasters had called for the hills south of Buffalo to take the brunt of the snowstorm, which dragged in lake effect snow from Lake Erie. So it was already a snowstorm, and then it pulled in some more snowfall from the lake effect machine. Higher elevations saw more snow because temperatures hovered near freezing. Areas like Syracuse had rain early Tuesday that cut down snow totals quite a bit. Nearby Randolph at 1,700 feet has the second high snowstorm totals at 22 inches. This is news because it's November, late November, but again, 22 inches of snow in late November is not usual. I mean 1 to 3 inches, that's something I'm not going to report on in late November. 22 inches of snow. And it just felt like the snow kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. It didn't stop. So To me, this was kind of significant of a storm. It was more lake effect than anything, and the snow quickly accumulated. I'm trying to move my computer here. I got the spins, guys. Even on live, it seems like we have technical difficulties almost every show. Here we go. Sorry about that, folks. So, it just doesn't want to cooperate with me. Totally froze up. There we go.
I got up to threaten it.
That's what
about
happens.
Ready to kick some butt.
All right, so I wanted to show some snow totals here.
Don't need me. Okay.
Perrysburg, 28.2 inches of snow. Randolph got 22 inches. Sadarna, 21 inches and a half. Randolph, east-northeast, had 21. Cattaraugus had 20. Jamestown, 15.2 and 17.6. Whiteface Base had 15 inches. Gowanda had 14.3. And you can see the long list of double-digit snow totals in parts of central New York and also western New York. And let's see if we can find. I think the lesser snow fell in parts of like Cheektowaga. Cheektowaga has 5.9 inches of snow. Buffalo Airport, 5.9 inches of snow. So the western part of New York, especially closer to Buffalo, like Tonawanda, they saw 5 inches of snow. So West Seneca, 4.6 inches of snow today that fell in West Seneca, which we lived near there not too long ago. So it looked like everybody got a decent amount of snow for a November day. 4 inches plus is definitely something to talk about when it's late November going into December. And again, we've heard so much from Noah and other people about how, it's not going to be cold enough to snow, and we're not going to see that much of it this year. And I'll show you something here in a minute that would tell you different. And let's take a look at an AccuWeather story here, because it really kind of wraps everything up and when it comes to what's going to happen in California. And there's a lot. So let's get with it here. I'll just read from AccuWeather. Rounds of rain are expected to soak areas from Washington to southern California this week. The first storm rolled ashore in Washington and Oregon on Monday, settled into Northern California on Tuesday. Rain is forecast to push farther south across California during Tuesday night, which has already happened. Rain will fall in San Francisco as well, the Paradise, California area until Tuesday night into Wednesday. Now, this is the first storm. After dousing the Pacific Northwest of the rain early this week, the Pacific storm will train a continued chug along West Coast during the middle and latter parts of the week. This is the new storm that we're talking about. So we've already had one bout of moisture. Here comes round number 2. Another round of drenching rain will settle over Northern California from Wednesday to Thursday. Much needed rain is scheduled to reach Southern California and inland into the Great Basin, desert Southwest, Wednesday night into Thursday. Now, with that, I'd like to add that near Los Angeles, the Malibu area, there is a ton of area of burn and scar. So we will have to keep a close eye on how much rain they actually get down there, because we will see significant flooding, flash flood, debris flow, whatnot. So there could be some serious consequences with this bout of rain that we're going to get ready to deal with here today and tomorrow. Also want to point out that the snow in the California mountains, the Sierras, we were talking about areas that might have gotten anywhere from 2 to 3 feet of snow from this particular storm. And you can see other states in Nevada and Utah as well getting beneficial moisture from this as well. And again, it looks like tons of snow in the areas where we have ski resorts. For many, the rain driving through central and southern portions of California will be welcome. However, rainfall could once again be heavy enough at times to cause flash flooding and mudslides. The last burst of rain to reach Los Angeles area was on Thanksgiving Day, where over a half inch and an inch fell at the LAX airport. Meanwhile, snow will fall at higher elevations in the Sierra Mountains, as I just mentioned. While ski resorts will rejoice, falling snow levels will create even more travel headaches where passes remain open throughout the Sierra. And it mentions a note down here at the bottom. The Woozy Fire in California, 100% contained as of Thanksgiving Day. The other fires, also the Campfire Paradise, that one has now been declared 100% contained. So, finally, those fires have been put out and contained, and now we have to deal with the rainy season for this part of the year on this side of the country. California, this is where you get the majority of your moisture, and as I'll show you on the GFS, you'll see all the rain that we've got coming this way. So the rainy season has definitely begun, and we're going to show you that just in a minute. But, you know, here's the lighter side of things, guys. Music. There is a festival here in Columbus, Ohio. Foo Fighters, System of a Down, Disturbed, The Prodigy, Chevelle, Joan Jett, The Cult. But no, folks. No. Let's skip this concert, because that one's still missing something. How about this one here? Hellfest. Oh, here we go. Kiss, Def Leppard, Stone Temple Pilots, Tool, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Slash, Dream Theater. I love Dream Theater. ZZ Top, Slayer, King Diamond. Oh, these are great bands, but still something's missing, and I can't. But maybe. Oh, I get it. Oh, it's this. This was the music festival that everyone's got to go to. Yeah, that's right, folks. Al Gore to host a 24-hour climate change special featuring Moby and Goo Goo Dolls. Now, special. Al Gore will host a 24-hour broadcast special on climate change next month, featuring an array of celebrities and musical performances by artists that include Moby and the Goo Goo Dolls. Wow. The former vice president on Tuesday announced the 8th annual 24 Hours of Reality, Protect Our Planet, Protect Ourselves, which will be televised in more than 125 countries and streamed live online at 24hoursofreality.org, according to this news release. The special will include performances by Moby, the Goo Goo Dolls, Sting and Shaggy, Jeff Goldblum. Oh, well, Jeff Goldblum, I mean, he's such a, he's an expert on this stuff. Mildred Snitzer Orchestra, and among others, as well as celebrity appearances by Jaden Smith. Is that Will Smith's boy? Jaden? Jaden Smith. All right. And Bill Nye, the Science Guy. Woo! Woo! Claire Danes and Cody Simpson. I tell you what, folks. You know what? Forget you, Tool and Lynyrd Skynyrd, because Al Gore has got Bill Nye and Jada Smith and listen, the Mildred Snitzer Orchestra. I mean, hands down, the Mildred Snitzer Orchestra. I mean, you can't top that. I mean, Tool, System of a Down, no. We've got the Mildred Snitzer Orchestra playing for Mr. Al Gore. He says, our health depends on the health of the planet, Mr. Gore said in a statement. The climate crisis is not an abstract issue. It has a direct impact on us and the people we love the most. And I'm looking forward to exploring the climate and the health connection this year's 24-hour broadcast, to discussing how we can take bold and ambitious action to ensure the future generations can live long, healthy lives full of opportunity and promise. This special will air live from Los Angeles starting Monday, December 3rd at 6 p.m. local time. So, let's go over the array of celebrities that Mr. Gore has featured for his Gore Fest. That's what we're going to call this. This is Gore Fest. And first of all, we want to basically mourn the loss of Moby and Goo Goo Dolls' career, because when you are featured as headliners for Al Gore's global warming agenda, you pretty much know nobody else is booking you anywhere else. The money that Al Gore is probably paying this band or both of them, they might have to split the fee. I don't know. But to be at this point of your career where Al Gore calls you and says, hey, you want to come on and play some songs from your old hit albums? You know, Moby, I like the songs that you guys do. Moby, yeah. Goo Goo Dolls. These guys are old and tired from the 90s, just like Al Gore. See, that's what it is. Poor Al. He can't let go. He can't let go of the past. He probably had a Goo Goo Dolls poster in the Oval Office when he was the VP to Mr. Old William Jefferson Clinton. Yes, Gorefest. That's what we're calling this. Gorefest, featuring Moby, the Goo Goo Dolls, Sting and Shaggy, Jeff Goldblum from movies like The Fly and Independence Day, the Mildred Snitzer Orchestra. I'm telling you. I mean, Hellfest. Get it together. I mean, you guys got Kiss and Def Leppard and Whitesnake and Rival Sons and Stone Temple Pilots and Clutch. I mean, Foo Fighters and System of a Down and Disturbed, The Cult, and Chevelle and Joan Jett. Who wants to? Henry Rollins is going to be in this show in Columbus with Pauly Shore. The Gorgor Dolls. This is why we love you folks here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel. The Gorgor Dolls. That should be the new name of the band. Moby's Gorgor Dolls. That's what we should call the festival. Moby's Gorgor Dolls.
Oh, dear.
We can make a movie out of that. Andrew Dice Clay, Henry Rollins, Pauly Shore. You're going to be at Sonic Temple Festival, but that ain't nothing, folks. You got to make it on down to Los Angeles, California for the Gore Fest. That's right, Gore Fest featuring Moby and the Gorgor Dolls. Sting and Shaggy. I need to figure... Is this the Sting? Is that Sting himself with a guy named Shaggy?
Oh boy, Scooby-Doo.
Let's find out. There's got to be more information on this amazing headline. I mean, this concert's going to be totally radical. Far out. Al Gore, there he is. Look at him. Jeez, thank God he didn't become president. Talk to the hand because the hand doesn't talk back. That's not what he said, but that's what I think he said. It's basically repeating what I just said in the previous article. I only have to Al Gore's tweet. Oh, this ought to be good. Fact. Fossil fuels are driving the climate crisis and threatening our health. That's what Al Gore says. Let's troll his Twitter account. Oh my. Hello, Mr. Gore. Tune in to The Daily Show tonight, 11 p.m. for my interview with that guy. I don't know who that is. He had a fantastic visit.
Can you believe he's still a thing?
Who, Gore?
Yeah.
Because look, this is funny, guys, and Rob told me this one today. This picture right here, this is his logo for his Gorefest. Okay, this is the Gorefest official flyer. Now it's got one of those wind turbines in the background. Did you know? Right now, if I'm not mistaken, what I gathered from Rob is that one of the largest amounts of CO2 from a certain part of this world came in at 475 parts per million. Guess what was located in that area with the parts per million so high? It was a wind turbine farm. Imagine that. This green energy device that's supposed to save us from climate change is emitting CO2 into the atmosphere at higher levels than anything else in the industrialized market of man-made emissions. How's that possible? This is supposed to be green energy. So it's ironic that this little wind turbine here has been selected as the Gorefest official logo, as there were CO2 readings from that region that were the highest on the planet due to, these wind turbines, this green energy, this stuff that's supposed to be good for the planet. See what else Mr. Gore does. We're addicted to coal. We can break this addiction if our leaders urgently increase ambition, scale up commitments under the Paris Agreement. Is that so, Al? My statement on the National Climate Assessment released today. So he wants to basically retweet his quote unbelievably deadly and tragic wildfires range in the west. Hurricanes batter our coast. But that's not true, is it? We had 2 landfall hurricanes this year that were major. 2. That's it. But yet Al Gore says that we were battered. Our coast were battered this year by less hurricanes than we had last year. We had 4 major landfalls. This year we had 2. Whew. Man, it's amazing he's allowed to have a Twitter account. I mean, everything he talks about has something to do with the climate. It could be about playing pinball. And he's going to say, climate change made that ball go farther. Electricity from new wind solar power is now cheaper than from existing coal plants. And that's false too. That's a false statement. And as I just told you guys, apparently these wind turbines are putting off CO2 emissions. And he's saying that these new green energy is cheaper than coal. That's a lie. That's a flat out lie. November 9th, Al Gore. Shame, shame, shame. Nobody should buy a ticket to Gorefest. I'm just telling you right now, it's going to be absolutely awful. Moby and the Goo Goo Dolls are the headliners. And then you get to listen to science wannabe Bill Nye and Jeff Goldblum. And what's sad is I like Jeff Goldblum. He was great in Independence Day. But I don't know why he's jumping. I guess, when you're out of work, you just got to join the pathetic when you are pathetic. And yeah, I just called Jeff Goldblum pathetic. And Bill Nye, pathetic. And Moby, pathetic. Goo Goo Dolls, even more pathetic. Gore Dolls. I love you guys. You're the best. Of course, he wants to brag. Glad to see New York State AG has moved forward with this lawsuit alleging ExxonMobil fraudulently covered up the impacts of climate crisis. No, they're not. This will go nowhere. This lawsuit will get dropped. This is a waste of time. And of course, Al Gore's promoting it. But as he flies around in his Learjet in his $1 million mansion that burns tons of energy. Oh, man. Looking at this guy, I need a whole day to really go over this stuff here and see all the lies that he puts on his account. Oh, he's got statement by former Vice President Al Gore and the IPCC Special Report on Global Warming. So, guys, check out his Twitter account if you're bored. Tell him hello. Tell him Jake from the Grand Solar Minimum channel sent you. He'll be like, who's that? Maybe he wants a free ticket to the Gore Fest. And then I'll say no. Alright, so let's see what the weather's going to be like on Gore Fest on December 3rd for California. And boy, wouldn't it be nice if it was snowing in California. It's snowing just east of California, but no snow for Gore Fest. But let's take a look at the temperature, shall we? Oh, this is going to be hilarious. If I'm thinking, yeah. So, low temperatures, 32. Warming up into the 40s and 50s for Monday for Gore Fest. These are high temperatures, folks. Coming in at 30 degrees in certain spots. 43 degrees in California, Southern California. Tell me more, Mr. Gore, on how we're warming. Tell us more. Anyway, take a look at GFS. Here we go. So we've got the heavy rain falling. It's going to continue to fall in Northern California. A big giant mess across the Midwest and the northern plain states. They'll get the next heavy snow, as that will stretch into the northern Great Plains, into Wisconsin, into the Great Lakes. More rain for Ohio, Pennsylvania, and the Northeast. The backside of this is cold enough for snow, and as this leaves, like I said the other night, another system will develop over the Central Plains into the Midwest and really keep climbing all the way through the Northeast. As now the models are suggesting that this is going to be more of a snow event on Wednesday, December 5th than originally thought. So just in a couple of days, this has now turned into more of a snow event into the Northeast. And thank God that it gets its act together off coast, because that's some heavy snow right there. So right now the models are not indicating next week that we are going to see anything tragic along the Northeast. If anything, we're just going to see moderate to light snow. And again, Southern California is going to get berated with heavy moisture. And earlier today, National Weather Service person from California called this low pressure system out here a twirly thing. And he says as the next twirly reaches the west coast, and I think he meant low pressure system, but I know for these global warming idiots, it's just easier to make up their own words. And so this little twirly thing right here is going to be on California on the 6th of December, and the twirly just keeps moving inland and soaks the southwest and into Texas. Wow, look at this rainfall that's going to be happening in Texas late next week on Friday. More snow to the northeast from lake effect, and then this bad boy gets its act together Saturday, December 8th. Much of the nation is cold, so when this moisture moves into the northeast and into the Midwest, it's going to turn into snow, freezing rain, and ice. And this system right now is just going to go right across the East Coast and not even head up into the Northeast and shoot off into the Atlantic on Monday, December 10th, while most of the country is going to be dominated by high pressure at that point. But the Northwest, again, firing off another storm, another low pressure system, massive amounts of moisture in California. Again, we have to watch this area for mudslides and debris flow. And this could get really dicey over here in the next 10 to 15 days. That storm moves off, gets quiet across most of the country, the Midwest, the East, the Northeast. We all get a little break for a couple days. And then we get into the second week of December. Temperatures kind of all over the place a little bit. Big low pressure system once again forming out in the four corner states. And for the time being, that predicted possible big dip in the polar vortex by the second week of December is not here yet. But we have seen some pretty interesting, but we know we're seeing the temperatures really over the next several days up and down throughout most of the country. And let's take a look at our temperature forecast and just get an idea here. Let's go back to the beginning. Here we go. So across most of the U.S. on Sunday, November 25th, that's old, obviously, as we see that cold air just trying to push its way into the U.S., that warmer air trying to fight its way back. But look, that Arctic cold is definitely winning the battle as far as pressing that freeze line even further south. For the first week of December, we will see some freezing temperatures through at least 50% of the country. And right before we get to the 15th, 16th, and 17th, we do see some more Arctic air beginning to develop in southern Canada and possibly making that push as a polar vortex disruption is predicted to disrupt this area along Michigan, Ohio, West Virginia, North Carolina, and into the Northeast is where we will likely see these colder temperatures into the second week of December, which ironically, if we see temperatures that we saw last year at this time, which were in the teens and the 20s, this will be 2 years in a row that middle of January weather has arrived in early December. So will this be another sign of a longer winter? Last year we had snow and ice in the region through April. We didn't really get into the 40s and 50s until first week of May. So we'll see. We got snow in November. That was earlier than last year. And last year we got the snow in December, and the winter just kind of strung along all the way through April. So are we looking at a repeat of through April and first week of May? Possibly. With numbers that I want to show you across the world. First, let's go to our North Atlantic anomaly temperature. It's below baseline, but barely. Slowly climbing back up. Nino region went up slightly today. We're at 0.860 above baseline. So right now, if this continues, we will be looking at favorable conditions for a very light to weak Modaki El Nino. And if it's still anything's on the table, folks. I've seen the temperature drop significantly in just 72 hours. So anything's still on the table at this point, folks. This is the snow depth that we'll be looking at through the next several days. Not as heavy as it has been in the past. So this is an indication that maybe we're just going to see some more moderate snow falling over the next several days. But as far as Iowa and Nebraska and South Dakota, Kansas, parts of Missouri, you guys might see a little bit heavier snow than the rest of the region. Of course, we're seeing some heavier amounts of snow in the higher elevations of Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Nevada, and California. Take a look at the ice situation. Not that we can remember from last night, but folks, this is Hudson Bay right here. Well, let me get the arrow up so you can see it. I wanted to point this out because I do have a little article I wanted to share. This is the Hudson Bay. Look at the ice growth that we already have. Am I mistaken? Was this even filled up with ice last year? For some reason, I want to say that it wasn't. So this will be interesting to watch as the year continues to develop. More ice growth once again in the Arctic, and we show that every day. That's something that I'm glad that we start doing. We monitor the amount of ice, sea extent that's up there in the Arctic. Also, take a look at this graph. Not as much growth as we would probably thought would happen, but for November 26th, November 27th, how about that? 2018 totals is at 10.7 millions of square kilometers of sea ice extent. So we're still about 0.6 millions of square kilometers below this average, this median line right here, which is the median range between 1981 and 2010. So almost where people are making a hubbub about, where our ice growth right now is nearly at that level, which is ideally, once you get to this part of ice growth, this is a very healthy Arctic sea ice extent, in my opinion. And I'm sure a lot of you agree with that. And just briefly here, getting a lot of glitches here, Mari. Here is the daily snow up here for November 27th, 2018. The orange is the snow coverage, guys. Look at that. It's only November. And it's not just here that's snow covered. Russia, of course, Eurasia. I mean, Europe is now starting to get some snow coverage. So, I've showed you where we have ice right in here filling up. Now we're snow covered up here. This little strip will be full by the end of the week, if not by midweek next week. My predictions that this all will be covered. But look, solid orange throughout North America, Alaska. That's solid, guys, for November. That's quite a bit of snow, if you ask me. And, I don't see any signs of it letting up. Look, we showed you guys temperatures this year from the Arctic where the summertime temperatures were below average for 50 days or more. And then as we went into fall in the Arctic, temperatures have been above normal. So with the cooler summers and the warmer start to the fall winter leaves more water vapor in the atmosphere, which means this is an indication, in my opinion, that we're not blowing smoke up your ass when we're talking about getting a lot of snow this year. This is a strong indicator to see this much snow already on the ground. And we're in November, late November, heading into December. And January and February are the peak months of our winter as far as snowfall. Especially from mid-December, January into February. That's where the snowstorms really get cranking all the way through February. And at this rate, if the cold weather continues to hang around like it is in Australia, they're still getting snow. And lots of it. And my fear is that they started off with record cold and they're ending with record cold. And we started off our season with record cold. So right now it looks like we're almost mocking what's happened in the southern hemisphere for their past winter. So it is also said that whatever they experience first is what we're getting. And right now that proves to be true. So far, it's only November. Anything can happen, I know. But it is a very strong indication right now that this snow is not going anywhere and that we're going to have plenty of it to go around as the months continue to progress. And that's going to be it for me tonight. Mari, did you have anything you'd like to throw in before we exit the airwaves tonight? Say hello to everybody in the chat.
Hello. What an interesting evening in the chat. Where do I start? Well, people started off the chat sharing the temps. So it seems to me everyone's a little frigid, whether you're north or south. Everyone's a little cold. I'm not going to read everything off entirely. Justin did a super chat again. Thanks, Justin. You're the bomb. You are so awesome. Check out Justin's shirt. You're just good stuff. Thank you. And I owe you an email. I got to explain to you my hatred towards windmills. I have some major problems with it, and I will explain that, and I will also answer the question of what is the three words, the three naughty words that got that guy kicked. So, yeah. Anyway, Dustin, for you, Jake, I think this one goes out to you, a super chat for 420.
Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you, Dustin. We still owe your friend an interview. We should do that. Like, now that we have a little bit more free time before the holidays, we should do that. Okay, and then, what else? There was some things going on in the chat you might be scratching your head about. The bottom line is we don't sensationalize anything, and we're not going to cram anything down your throat for a buck. You know, that's the long, sweet, short thing. We are most gracious for people's support, but right now, at this point, GSM, what we're about is getting the information into people's hands, getting them to think about the topic, and learn about the topic together with an awesome community so they can understand and everyone can understand where to start prepping, and you know how to survive if something happens, because the truth is anything can happen. Yep. This climate is changing, weather's weird, and we have a pulse on it, and we like discussing different solutions. So that's all I have to say. That I'm trying to be very diplomatic.
Well, thank you very much, Mari. We appreciate your time and telling everyone hello. And
the whole Gorefest stuff was an absolute riot in the chat.
Well, Gorefest it is. The Gorgo dolls.
You guys came up with some great things. Thank you.
Also, I want to say hello to Christian, Ice Age Farmer. I made a comment on one of his videos the other day. You know, guys, all joking aside, he really does a great job at covering crop loss. And as far as I'm concerned, when we started doing this Grand Solar Minimum topic, Christian was one of the first people in the community that we met, along with Radical Gardener. And, you know, what an asset to have those two, where Radical Gardener is probably, in my opinion, the authority when it comes to growing anything. She has a wonderful garden. She shows us little videos on how to do things and how she does it, how to protect her plants. And then Christian was like the first person that really taught us about moringa and other plants that we can grow that will help fill nutrients, and not so much the food department, but things that you can put in with your meal that'll help nurture your body during a possibility of, I mean, you know, dare I say this, guys, but with the crop loss talk that we've had and the puny produce that we see in our stores, I don't know about you guys, but we're seeing some puny looking produce. I mean, just think for a minute about alternative sources of food and energy that you'll need. And Mari is a big advocate of this, but less is more. And when it comes to consumption, you know, that's one of the things about Grand Solar Minimum that we have to do, is adjust what we consume. I think right now we take so many things for granted that, you know, when it does come to a time where we really start noticing food prices going way up and quality of product going way down, and now we're starting to notice that a certain amount of money a week was not enough for groceries that it used to be. So now we have to figure out new ways of making the food enough. And that's where it starts. And then before you know it, it's possible we'll be living in farmer market worlds, basically, if this continues. And it's only the beginning. And if things hold true, like we say, solar cycle 25 being already bad as it is, in my opinion, how weak it's going to be, what are we going to do when we get to 2030, when we're actually entering in what Valentina Zarkova is saying, a super grand solar minimum? You know, when we interviewed her months ago last year, she was very neutral, but her research said otherwise. But she didn't want to come out and just say it and scare a bunch of people. And to me, that last presentation by a group of people we won't mention anymore, I think they're very unprofessional. They disrespected Valentina Zarkova. They were very rude to her. In fact, I thought that they were almost being threatening to her in the very beginning as well. But that last presentation that she gave, for her to come out and say what she said, and it's based on her research and her work, that's something we all need to pay attention to for certain. So it's kind of got my thinking cap back on again. I'm not saying it's time to panic by any means, but we should pay more attention. And I think Mari and I were going to get back to the old days where we were showing videos on how-tos and just little prepper stuff, how to stay warm, how to grow food indoors, outdoors, vertically, stuff like that. As the year progresses, that's the kind of content that we would like to make outside of these live update shows. We'd like to put together little productions that can be useful while we still have the internet at our fingertips to get the information out. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. Please remember to like and share, subscribe, and hit that bell. Sometimes YouTube will let you get the notifications, and then other times the gremlins say no. Other than that, guys, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your support and your continued support. We will be back on Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. That's a late show. Friday night, 10 p.m. We'll be back on the air with more Grand Solar Minimum news. Until then, guys, we will talk soon.